Thank God it's Friday. Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television. I am Sunday Michael Ogu.
And I'm Zainab Bala. Thank you so much for joining us. It's 6 a.m. here in the capital city of Abuja.
Interesting. It's good to have you back again in the studio.
Thank you.
It was a male affair yesterday, and sometimes it's good to get the female perspective on an issue, and so maybe that helps to blend issues up and not have people accuse us of tyranny of the men. And so we will feed you with the headlines this morning. President Muhammadu Buhari orders Emefiele to step down.
Southeast threatens to boycott elections if denied presidential tickets of APC and PDP.
Governor El-Rufai declares support for Tinubu.
Alleged blasphemy. Police commence investigation, arrests 2 suspects.
Now the news in detail. President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered the resignation of Godwin Emefiele, governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and other political appointees seeking to contest the 2023 general elections. The order was given in a circular issued by Boss Mustafa, Secretary to the Government of the Federation. The CBN governor was copied in the circular titled Ministers, Heads of Government, Agencies, Ambassadors, and other appointees with political ambitions to resign. Emefiele had been under pressure since some group purchased the 2023 presidential form of the ruling All Progressive Congress for him.
In other news, Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State has openly declared his support for the presidential aspiration of the national leader of the All Progressive Congress, APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. El-Rufai made the declaration at the Murtala Square in Kaduna, where the national leader of the APC, accompanied by the former governor of Borno State, Kashim Shettima, former EFCC boss Nuhu Ribadu, and other dignitaries canvassed support from delegates. Shettima had earlier assured the delegates that the Kaduna State government, Nasir El-Rufai, was solidly by their side. El-Rufai said he would need the support of delegates from Kaduna State to make a decision.
The leadership of the Ohaneze Ndigbo worldwide has threatened that Southeast will boycott votings in the forthcoming general elections in 2023 if the ruling All Progressive Congress and the leading opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, fail to zone their presidential tickets to the Southeast. The group noted that it would mobilize the zone to use the options of the usual sit-at-home order to boycott the elections. The factional Secretary General of Ohaneze Ndigbo Worldwide, Mazi Ikechukwu Isiguzoro, made this known in a statement made available to Daily Trust on Thursday. Meanwhile, the Pan-Niger Delta Development Forum, PANDEF, has described as unfortunate the decision of the People's Democratic Party to throw open the contest of the party's 2023 presidential ticket. The spokesperson of PANDEF, Ken Robinson, in a statement said, by this decision, the main opposition party has dug his own grave.
Now, in a popular story, making the rounds all over social media, Sokoto State Police Command has commenced investigation into the alleged blasphemous comment by a female student of Shehu Shagari College of Education in Sokoto. Deborah Samuel, a level 2 student, was accused of making a social media post that blasphemed the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. According to the statement signed by the Police Public Relations Officer ASP Sanusi Abubakar, 2 suspects have been arrested in connection to that incident while the school has been closed down. Now, the Commissioner of Police, Sokoto State Command, CP Kamaldin Kola Okulola, has appealed to members of the public to go about their lawful activities and should not panic as the situation is under control.
Very unfortunate incident there that has taken the life of a young lady, a young Nigerian, and we hope that the security operatives will be on top of their game on this one to avoid similar situations in the future. And now, moving on, the Senate has removed the recent killings of over 40 persons, including, the recent killings of over 40 persons, including soldiers, by terrorists in the southern part of Taraba State. This resolution followed a point of order by Senator Emmanuel Boacha. The report.
Citing Order 42 of the Senate Standing Orders 2022 as amended, Senator Kwacha drew the attention of the chamber to the incident of banditry and terrorism which occurred in southern Taraba during the Salah break. He noted that the attackers came on motorbikes and killed over 40 people, including soldiers mobilized to protect the community. The lawmaker condoled with the government and people of Taraba State and the military, describing it as one killing too many.
In the encounter, Mr. President, they hacked down about 6 military men yesterday in the night. As I speak, the CO of the 23 Battalion in Takum has not been found. It's largely believed in the community that he must have been killed among these bandits, or by these bandits, among the officers that he led to confront these bandits. So I'm saying this, that we should know that this thing is spreading across the length and breadth of this country.
The Senate President Hamid Lawa urged Nigerians to support the military by providing the needed motivation and information to enable them to tackle the problem of insecurity in the country.
On behalf of all of us here, I want to sympathize with your senatorial district for the attacks and the loss of life. And I also want to urge Nigerians to continue to support our armed forces because they are doing so much, even though we don't have enough for them. But I believe that the support of citizens for the armed forces will galvanize them and keep them motivated.
A minute silence was observed in honor of all those killed during the attack. In another development, President of the Senate Hamid Lawa has tasked the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) on fairness, justice, and equity as political parties move into the process of party primaries. Lawa gave the charge before adjourning the upper legislative chamber to the 7th of June 2022. He said the chamber was adjourning to enable senators to participate actively in the processes leading to the primaries. He urged aspirants across board to accept the outcome of the results, especially if the process is in line with the guidelines of the Electoral Act.
INEC has promised fairness. We are praying for INEC to achieve that fairness, equity, and justice. And of course, we must ensure that 2023 elections are peaceful, that the integrity must never be questioned. For those who will triumph, those who will win, we pray that when they win, they will be good winners. And for those that may not win as much, when they lose or not win as much, they should accept the process, because we expect that the process will be fair and square.
Now moving on, irrigation farmers in Ajua district of Batagara local government area of Katsina State could suffer great losses this season as a result of power outages and high cost of diesel and petrol. The epileptic power is compounded by very low voltage, which could hardly power generators to supply enough water to the crops. Abdullahi Yamadi visited some irrigation sites at Ajua Dam and now reports.
Farmers here have planted crops such as wheat, rice, tomatoes, pepper, and other vegetables with high hopes of a bumper harvest. But since the beginning of the season, these hopes are fading away as a result of the epileptic power supply and the skyrocketing cost of diesel and petrol. We have incurred heavy losses because of the shortage of water. There is no diesel to power our generators to supply water to crops, which have now dried off. Farming at Ajua Dam is a year-round activity, a situation that guarantees food security, employment generation, and self-reliance. But these power interruptions are technically sacking majority of the farmers from their farms and businesses. I have lost a lot. Crops worth millions of naira have dried off. Rice, wheat, and tomatoes have dried off. I lost cassava worth about 3 million naira. In fact, we lost crops worth 20 million naira.
miliyan 20 da 'yan kai.
This is how the farms looked when Trust Television visited some few weeks ago. The story is that of a barren land, empty and deserted. The farmers are confused about what to do or what will happen next, as most of them are indebted to banks, individuals and other financial institutions. The only success story is to those who are fortunate to have their farms close to the dam or any water point good enough to have access to frequent water supply. I did not get anything this season. We have been having good time, but this year, due to water shortage, our rice, wheat and other crops were destroyed. The manager, Ajia Water Works, has a different story other than what the farmers are saying.
Water treatment plant is being written, not irrigation. Only for treatment and human consumption and animal consumption, not for irrigation purpose. I clarify to GVA and SAPK, that is where we have a water canal being constructed for irrigation. But in Ajo, we don't have that facilities here.
This unfortunate situation calls for early planning and implementation, as well as adequate support from the authorities concerned to avert a reoccurrence of this colossal waste. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Kazana.
A very unfortunate situation there, Zainab. This power situation seems to have extended its wing to just about everything. We see the labor of these farmers that have endured everything, every odds to go to the farm and try to do something with the dry seasons, you know, to sustain production and bring down prices of things. Now losing over 20-30 million of their effort because they are situated next to a dam that cannot supply water to what they do. It's very painful to see those things and to hear the kind of excuses that are given by the managers of the dam. There is really no excuse that will be tenable except you get waters to the farm. It's clear, it's obvious, the crops are drying up. There's nothing else you can say that makes sense to these people or even to Nigerians watching from home why we are unable to get water from a dam that is not dried to neighboring irrigation farmlands that need this water to sustain these crops, losing tomato, wheat, and other very valuable crops in that process.
You know, I almost didn't recognize that tomatoes when I saw it.
It's painful. You could see them drying up. You would think that they were found somewhere in the desert, you know. We will now take a short break. When we return, we will bring you the newspaper review for this morning. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that they must look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
Daily, we bring you updates around politics.
People like you who are very young, you have no future. Anybody now who is 30 years, if what is happening to them continues, by the time you are 60, you will have no country.
The DPO of a particular unit does not have to wait until the commissioner tells him what to do within his jurisdiction.
We have political parties on the ground. Some of them have been there for years. But they themselves, in their own sober moments, they know that this country is not the one they are expecting to run.
Policy and governance.
Are you saying the NBS is lying?
I'm saying to you very clearly that the NBS has a serious problem with accurate data till today.
The 5th Assembly, as well as the 7th Assembly, their own attempt were unproductive.
Emergence of the Taliban has simply emboldened terror groups globally.
There is a lot of attention with regards to security developments in Nigeria.
On Daily Politics, we interrogate issues, holding the actors to account, bearing in mind all the sides.
We heard that in some places now, people have to go and pay tax, not to the local government, not to the state, but to criminals.
Nobody can come to your house and kidnap you without information.
If this country is bleeding, it is bleeding because we have failed to educate our young.
in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Welcome back to Daybreak on Trust Television. If you're just joining us, it's that segment where we take a quick look at what's happening on the covers of the Nationals daily this morning. We start as usual with the Daily Trust newspaper. Quite a number of activities on the cover there. If you have got a copy of the Daily Trust newspaper, and the major headline today is a bit of digression from political activities, even though it is not completely independent. We have here the kicker ahead of APC PDP primaries. Naira crashes further as aspirants mop up dollar. US dollar sells for $5.95 at black market as demand spikes, and experts predict dark days. BDC's operators blame politicians. You find that on the cover of the Daily Trust. Details you'll find on page 5. Below that major headline is the photograph of the 19th National Productivity Day celebration, which has featured there the president and the awardees. And you could find next to his right, it's the Minister of Labor and Productivity, the embattled Minister of Labor and Productivity, who still seemed to be consulting his constituency before he acts on the president's directive, apparently. You have the Senate President there, the Chief of Staff, Professor Gambari, and the recipient we could see from here, Mr. Jim Ovie, the chairman of the Zenith Bank Group, and then Alan Onyema, the chairman of Airpeace, among other dignitaries, on the cover of the Daily Trust. And right below the name marks, we have other stories. Nigeria can have heart attack. I am having a lot of fun, Emefiele. INEC mulls relocation of sensitive materials from the Central Bank of Nigeria. You'll find those stories on pages 5 and 10 of the Daily Trust. And below that major photograph on the cover of the paper is the belt, boxed in black. Sultan Tambuwal Kuka condemned killings of students accused of blasphemy. That unfortunate incident yesterday coming from Sokoto. We also have below that petrol agency counters marketers, says 58 billion paid in 6 months. This is responding to the allegations by the Petroleum Marketers Association, which says it is owed over 500 billion in the last 8 to 12 months. Kaduna councillor arrested with AK-47 near kidnappers' den. Amazing. Amazing. Bauchi Emir denies endorsing Oshibajo. That's another story you find on the cover, and the details of that story is on page 10 of the Daily Trust. Talk about the... Indeed, very, very interesting stories. With all this shout about things being difficult, the recession and all of that, you wonder where people get this much naira to begin to mop up, the dollar to the level where the dollar seems to be taking a spike. Are we trying to dollarize the Nigerian economy now? Because it's beginning to appear that the naira is becoming too bulky.
You don't really. I don't know if you have access to it, but it's really scarce that you don't even get to see them. No, you don't. But I really don't know where these, politicians. Where
every election cycle, they seem to be moving into the dollar. Maybe because you could have tons of it in your pocket when translated into naira. Yes, and people would not notice that you are going around with this amount of money. And touching at 595, I mean, before we get to the election, we may just be looking at 600 plus.
That's massive.
That's crazy. I wonder how people who genuinely need these dollars, to procure spare parts, of their small industries from abroad and all of that, will be able to cope when we have this humongous amount of money, you know, in the hands of politicians who are not known for any business activity other than basically just seek re-election after every 4 years, renew their positions to continue to torment Nigerians, if you like, bringing down this kind of untold hardship on the Nigerian household. I don't know what else we can do as a country to stop this. And then the big story on Emefiele, you know, after that directive in the morning, showing up at the presidential villa and being accosted by State House correspondents, and they said there had been a directive for all of you to resign. What do you think? And somewhere in his comment he says Nigerian could have a heart attack. I am having a lot of fun.
Well, a lot of people, some would say he's playing coy with us. I don't know from this statement. And then INEC seems not to have so much confidence, and it's saying it's going to relocate sensitive materials from the CBN.
The president of the central bank is supposed to be a political. You are supposed to not to identify, if you like, with any political party or any political movement, as the case may be. Your business is the economy. Your religion is the economy. Your political party is the economy. Your constituency is the economy. Anything outside that is an aberration. And to even be so associated, and it is difficult for you as the central bank governor to come out straight and say, I am not interested in this, to begin to bring the whole God factor into this conversation and saying, I am consulting, I am thinking about it. I mean, what would have been ideal is that if you even nurse this ambition at all, you should have taken a walk so that whatever you are doing does not have a negative lash on the central bank, because the governor of the central bank and the central bank are one and the same as far as Nigerians are concerned. But I mean, to go ahead and say Nigerians can have a heart attack, is that a statement, you know, that is expected of somebody who holds such a high?
Really not, I must say. We're not expecting to hear that. Remember Sunday, you know, some weeks back when we were talking about, you know, there were rumors in the news about his aspiration and all of that, and he was saying no, it was groups, you know, that were pushing him, you know, to come out and all of that. And to hear this coming from him, it's really strange, I must say.
It is very strange. It is very strange. People have said one or two things about his visit yesterday, given that today it's a Friday, that instructions came out yesterday. And the party's instruction, I mean, the president's letter basically said they have until Monday. You know, some had situated the visit in two folds. One, he had probably gone there to thank the president for the opportunity, and probably today or somewhere within the weekend may come out openly to say, okay, in compliance with government directives, I have now decided to move on. Or he has showed up there to basically say, now I've thought about it, probably I've heard from the Almighty, and I am no longer interested. I will concentrate on my job as the central bank governor. Whichever one it is, the waiting game begins today. If we don't get anything today, obviously before the end of Monday, whether he's staying or moving on, we would get a definite confirmation.
So much drama, you know, happening all at the same time.
So much.
A lot of people are saying 2023 is going to be a serious game changer.
It is. I hope for the best, basically, but the space is now riddled with so much characters, so much players. At the tip of my finger yesterday, I was counting over 10 notable players in this administration that will be affected. You know, other than the names that we see, we still are yet to hear from the Attorney General of the Federation, a very controversial player as far as the activities of this administration is concerned. We still waiting for other players. I mean, the Minister of Labour is here posing quite gallantly with the president on the covers of the Daily Trust and perhaps many other dailies, as we may see as we move on with our review. And a lot of them, not probably at the presidential level, but not ambition at various levels. Some are looking at the Senate, some are looking at governorship positions in their state. And then the head of agencies, perhaps they will start making up their mind from today, given that it will be the last official working day to be able to do anything. We know a number of them who have overtly or covertly coveted political positions in their states whilst functioning said head of agencies, ministries, and parastatals of government. So let us see how this drama continue to unfold, and then INEC was forced to respond to the question of how safe, how transparent the INEC sensitive materials would be in the votes of the central bank governor, given that he is an interested party.
Truly.
Well, they said they are considering alternative. I wonder what the alternative would be. I know that on the Twitter of one of Nigeria's notable politician who seemed to have a very good presence from Kaduna, the man with the long hair, he said INEC should consider moving the sensitive material to the votes of the imams and the pastors, maybe.
Well,
just maybe
will that make them safe anyway?
That is making a jest of this. But to cut, and then before we move on from the Daily Trust, the story of the Emir of Bauchi. It was rumored somewhere in the social media that upon the visit of the Vice President, the Emir, we can't confirm that independently in our reports, said something to the effect that if he wasn't an Emir, he would have been a promoter of the Yoshiba Just ticket, and that went quite viral, and he had to come out because, just as we were saying about the central bank governor, emirs are supposed to be apolitical. They are fathers to everyone.
Right.
Basically, people visit them just to get their royal blessings, and they are supposed to appear to be disposed to the candidature of just about everybody in the society. And he had to make that clear in an official statement coming from the Emir of Bauchi. So we have these and many more on the cover of the Daily Trust newspaper.
Really very interesting stories. You know, Sunday, I cannot take my eyes off, this story about I know it's quite a very sensitive topic to talk about, but I'm really glad, the Sultan, Tambuwal, and others, religious leaders are condemning that act. When I saw that video, it sent chill down my spine. I couldn't imagine, what went through the heads, of those students who actually committed that act.
That's what you get with mob action. There is no thinking in mob actions. It starts. If there is nothing to break it, just about immediately the worst happens before the authorities are able to arrest the situation. What is painful and what we must understand is the need to allow security agencies, to handle situations like this and not take the laws into our hands. We are not a banana republic where once you feel, offended by somebody, you basically take the laws into your hands and sniff off life from this young person. If we continue like this, then we would have thrown away every decency that we have as a person. Yeah, so it's unfortunate. Every notable person, as far as Sokoto State is concerned, have condemned this act. The police have made some arrests. Hopefully, we will begin to drill down to the bottom of this case.
Truly, I'm going to continue to follow that, to give you updates on what's happening on that story. Now, let's move on to the Punch newspaper this morning. And the lead story there on the Punch reads, 2023 presidency, Jonathan submits APC forms today. Emefiele shuns resignation calls. And then you see the riders there. CBN governor entitled to stay in office 30 days to general elections. And this is coming from Ozikome. Adamant appointees sue APC. INEC, Yahaya Bello submits nomination form. Buhari's resignation order to save APC candidates from loss. And this is coming from the presidency. And then you see a pictorial there that shows you, students protesting, against ASU strike. And then the caption there just reads, ASU, VCs fear delayed admission process, students' protests spread. You'd find other stories on the top on page 19. Inadequate database threatens SIM NIN registration. NIMSI admits deficit. And then despite 129 billion intervention loans, agric imports hit 2.7 trillion naira. And then on page 8, INEC says 1.4 million online registration invalid. Okay, you find the details of that story on page 8, and then on page 30, Buhari signs anti-money laundering counter-terrorism bills. You'd also find other stories on the Punch. Lassa fever kills 149 in 4 months, says NCDC. Alafin, 20 princes show interest. Application ends today. You'd also see other stories. Thugs attack Ondo female aspirant supporters, several others injured. Lagos land grabbers kill 4-year-old. Father demands justice. That's quite tragic. You find the details of that story on page 4 and page 5 on the Punch. And then you see the popular story that's almost everywhere in the news and social media. Blasphemy, Sultan Kuka condemns students for lynching Sokoto female colleague. Inside the world of Nigeria's deadly money ritualists, where human parts are traded like commodities. That looks like an explainer. You're going to see the details of that on page 26 and 27 on the Punch newspaper this morning.
Starting from the last one you mentioned, that looks like such a horror that we could have anywhere, where people would have the confidence, as it were, to openly trade human parts, which supposedly implied that some killings would have happened. These were not taken from the graveside. Even so, it will be an aberration. It's terrible how this continue to fester, basically because some people believe that some human parts holds the key to some kind of riches.
I really don't know where do they actually get these ideas from?
It's amazing. I don't know of anybody the world has celebrated today who came out anywhere, even covertly, to suggest in the slightest form that you got there basically by using a human part. I mean, if you desire riches so much, you could use your part. I don't.
No, I don't think that would work.
So who said your part cannot steal money, and it has to be somebody else's? Who, by the way, it's going about his or her lawful means, struggling to eke out a living. This person sometimes. Kidnapped on their way from work after a very tiring day, sometimes through one chance where you get into a vehicle and they are hypnotized, and before you know it, they take them to places where it's terrible. It's terrible what we have degenerated to. It's terrible how barbaric we have become in the quest for whatever. For some others, these ritualists just tell you they use it to fortify themselves. I mean, to fortify yourself exactly to do what? It is appointed unto every man to die once. It doesn't matter what you do to fortify yourself when it's time. It is time. It's this. You see stories like this, and you are completely taken aback in the 21st century. What people could actually do.
Really, a lot of stories, I must say, on the Punch newspaper. NIMC, came up with this issue of SIM NIN registration linkage, barring calls and all of that. And now they're saying inadequate database is threatening SIM NIN registration. So what exactly are we doing, if you ask?
This country is very dramatic. On the one hand, people are being punished because they have not been able to link the SIM and the NIM. And the investigation suggests that it is not for want of trying, but you have people showing up in this place severally. I know in my own case that I had gone for a conference in Kano, and the linkages were even being done in public places, in coasters, by this telecom agency. I did a linkage in Kano, came back to Abuja, and got a message that I had not linked my phone. I did another one in Abuja and proceeded to Lagos and got to know that I still not linked my phone. It took about 4 trying to get my linked, because I didn't want to get to the situation where I am unable to receive or make calls, given the sensitivity of my work. So you can imagine what that means for somebody who probably stays in a rural place, who had to spend money to come down to this in just basically responding to a civil call, to do the needful from his meager income. And you come and do all of that process, and somehow because of this kind of database problem, you are unable to have your NIM and your SIM linkages. And when it was the deadline, the same government whose infrastructure was inadequate to enable these linkages barred you from collecting calls, and now come out in this manner to admit that they have a deficit in database. You know what you're expecting? Every single linkages take up some space in your database. You know how much phone lines there exist. You know how much data you were supposed to capture. You know how much data space you already have. It's just common sense that you should know that if everybody responds to this call, then it will be impossible for you to warehouse this database without expanding on what you currently have. And if you drill them, perhaps they will blame it on appropriation, or not having enough money to expand their data space subscription and all of that. It is unfortunate that we have government agencies, who do not do what they are supposed to do, and yet the punishment for all of this fall back on the ordinary Nigerian. So quite a number of stories indeed. I'm happy, if you like, at the expense of sounding quite negative at the prospect of what could come out from these students' renewed vigor to take their destiny into their hands. We have seen all kinds of protests from various parts of the country, which is a great indication that the students are mobilizing. They are tired of sitting at home.
This time around, they are adamant on doing
and we are beginning to see results, if you like. In the last 48 hours,
so
they
many
have been attended to by the state president. The president yesterday was making an appeal to ASU to shelve it in the interest of the students. Well, we hope the government is also responsible enough to play its own part. What they are looking for is a handshake. You can't shake hands with a clenched fist. The government cannot put his hand to his own body and ask the other people for a handshake. We hope that this is done in an orderly manner. So far, so good. We have not heard of any kind of group, taking this protest the wrong way. I think they have decided to engage at the level where people who should listen to them would listen, and more so that these politicians want to move around this political season unhindered. So it is in their own interest, in the overall interest of the country, that this ASU problem is resolved once and for all.
Well, let's take a look at other papers this morning.
Yeah. So moving on to other papers this morning, we have, we have the Nation newspaper. And as usual, the Emefiele story, it's everywhere on the covers. On the Nation newspaper is the major one. Emefiele meets Buhari as SGF clarify quits order. CBN governor, I am having fun. Appointees sue APC and INEC. Basically, it appears people are still not comfortable with this whole directive thing and want some kind of interpretation from INEC. You find that on the major cover of the Nation newspaper, and below that major headline is one of the major front runners of the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, there talking to delegates from Kaduna State with a snippet of his photograph with the Kaduna State Governor Nasru El-Rufai, where the governor, we understand, pledged support to his candidature. And we understand it was a swell time yesterday. What we don't know is how he got to Kaduna, because we know the airspace is, these guys have private jets. They can hop into anywhere, innit? We have directly below those stories, El-Rufai Kaduna delegate pledged support for Tinubu. And to the left, we have the African Finance Corporation backs African economy with $2 billion facility. Yesterday, they were rising from an infrastructure conference, and it's good to get this kind of commitments in support of the African continent, because it does appear that we are taking a very serious hit from the aftermath of the pandemic, the global pandemic shutdown. And Above the name marks, we have protesting students block highways, ASU adamant after talk. And next we have Tambuwal Sultan condemned lynching of female student. Retirement of justice depletes Supreme Court. Expect flooding nationwide. Agency alerts Nigeria. I'm sure that will be coming from NIMET. And the strip below, you find federal government launches mobile app to tackle insecurity. Council held with AK-47. Amazing. The AK-47 story is also on the cover of the Daily Trust. And I was wondering when I first saw it, I said, is this an AK-47 for self-defense? Or
I think I saw more details on the Daily Trust newspaper. I think I saw something like in kidnappers' den,
close to
kidnappers' den.
It's difficult to explain how much we have degenerated. You want the details of that story, you may have to pick up the papers. Apparently, he may be either conniving with the kidnappers or probably had procured the AK-47 for a different reason, for protections. You will get that details when you pick up a copy of the paper. And just next to it, the story on the Nation newspaper says, yes.
I don't understand. I don't know how we're going to do this.
I don't understand.
A mobile app.
I hope it brings some kind of security to everyone. If the mobile app is basically supposed to just alert the police, then it will take one thing to alert them and the other for them to respond and show up at the scene, also prepared, to counter these kind of things. I don't know how that would work. I hope, without sounding very pessimistic, that there is some area of hope in the mobile app.
Look at that pictorial there, Sunday. Seems Tinubu is gathering quite a number of delegates, quite a number of followers.
This is some significant showing in Kaduna. I mean, to get this number of people united in a hall, listening to him quite rapidly, make his point and advance his ambition to become the #1 person is interesting.
I hope we don't get surprised. Remember, he said he can see a ray of hope. He's going to, grab the primaries. I don't know if this is like a tip-off that we're seeing to that.
Politicians and what they could be, if you listen to 10 of them, they will give you the impression that all is well. I hope that somehow, as Nigerians, we can see through some of these promises that are made, not exactly because they are fake, but to be able to interrogate the issues really and find for ourselves fitting leaders that will enable us find, to be able to put a round peg in a round hole, rather than get people who are unable to serve that purpose. And the Supreme Court is crying here that the retirement of justices has depleted the Supreme Court. Apparently, more and more of the people at that level are moving on. And yesterday we saw in the news that Justice Orderly had also retired. Some of the finest brains in the Supreme Court, are leaving. Apparently, it's time to elevate more people to that place.
And it's quite sad we don't have a number of them.
Yes, even with the numbers we have, it is taking forever to have some cases disposed with because the numbers are not adequate. Right. To now have people, retire from that number would mean there is an urgent need, a very urgent need, if you like, to fill up this gap.
Well, that is that on our first newspaper review for this segment. Now let's take a look at our daily hustle, where we show you how Nigerians are striving on a daily basis.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
Sunana Umar Faruk. Na tashi daga Neja. Na zo nan ina sana'a lifto. Na tashi dai farko iyayena sun kai ni makaranta ta boko. Na je na fara firamare. Ana nan kuma na zo na ƙara firamare. Na zo kuma ni koma ina yin makaranta allo ina yi. To har mahaifina ya rasu. Da mahaifina ya rasu to duk wani ɗan tallafi da nake ɗan samu kuma ya zan ba na samu. Sai na ga kuma gani ina son in ci gaba da makaranta amma akan tsadar rayuwa babu kuɗi kuma ba mahaifina. Sai ni kama yin dan buge-buge na haka yana dan samun ya sana'a yana dan yi a haka dai sai kuma aka waye gari sai ga rayuwa ta ƙara tsada sai ni zo ni yi aure da ni aure ina ganin kamar rayuwar za ta canza za a samu sauƙin tallafi da sauransu to ana nan kuma sai haihuwa kuma ga 'ya'ya sai kuma komai yan raja'a ya zan rayuwar tsadar rayuwar ya haura ga haka din na rasa ma yadda zan yi wani lokaci har ma abin da zan ci ma sai ya gagare ni lokacin da mahaifina suna da rai to lokacin gaskiya yana dan samun karfa suna dan taimaka mu to sai ya zama tun wanda ba sa da sai zan nikewa kaina lalura cin abinci lalura rashin lafiya da sauransu da kuma ina son neman ilimin sai na yi aikin karfi na samu kuɗin da zan je in biya kuɗin reserve na makaranta to har ne abin nan ni kasa lokaci ina zuwa abin nan gwamnati secondary school Suleja technical so kuma ban da kudin zuwa SSA bakin SS1 da ne dakatar saboda babu kudin zuwa gaba da sauransu abubuwan sun yi yawa tsadar rayuwa ya yi yawa sai ni kasa zuwa ko ina dai a ƙarshe dai makarantar ta zo ta wace akan makasudin tsadar rayuwa shekara 25 na bar SS1 sai ni kama yin sana'a ta shayi daga sana'a shayi ina dan samu abin da nake dan tattara an samu dan kudin da ni fara yin sana'a wannan talibto lokacin abubuwan na da sauki 10,000 ni fara yi da su to da ni fara yin ta 10,000 ina yi abun yana dan fafuɗaka to da kuma yanzu muka zo wannan karnin na tsadar rayuwa sai zabban doko waɗannan da nake dokowa daɗin da yawa ba na dokowa rabe su ba na dokowa akan tsadar rayuwa shine abun yake zuwa har ila yanzu ina irin jaya ta sosai sai dai ina maleji ne in samu na cin abinci yau da zuwa gobe ina dan lalura ta a hankali lokacin da nake shayi lokacin biredi duka za ka ɗauke shi akan naira 80 zuwa 100 a gane ko kuma za ka yanka na 20 za ka yanka na 30 na 40 na 50 har 20 ma za ka yanka yanzu nan babu na 20 na 30 ma babu a gane ko sai dai bakin 70 60 shine kuma yanzu ya zama 150 to kuma sannan lokacin suga ma 250 to yanzu dukkan wannan abubuwan suga ma yanzu ya zama 800 to kuma madara lokacin za ka saita akan 350 wannan 250 to yanzu ita din madaran ma ta koma ta 350 din ta koma 800 har da wani abu ta 250 din ta koma 600 to abubuwan duk sun caccanza shine karshen abun sai shayin ma yanzu ya fi karfin mutum abin da ya sa na bar sayar da kasuwar shayi da biredi kayayyakin ne sun ƙara kuɗi shine na bari na lisafa ba wani riba kwai lokacin muna sayan shi 450 600 100 nawa to yanzu ya zama 17 to shine babu wani riba a ciki tun a gare ka ya kama mana to shine kuma duk abubuwan sun yi tsada ba na iya yin wannan jarin ma babu a lokacin kuma a wurin da nake haya ban wuce in ba su 6,000 7,000 8,000 yanzu a wurin kuma ya zama sai 80,000 to kaga ni a mai shayi zan biya 80,000 ga wannan tsadar rayuwa ga komai to sai ni ga na yi lissafi tunda abun din na lissafi ne na yi lissafi ba wani abun da zan samu a ciki to bari in ɗauki 'yan sana'ar da ko da zan samu naira 200 a kullum ina cin abinci ko da ban aje ba to in dinga zagayawa ya fi min da in zauna wannan kuɗin da zan dinga biya bashi za a bi ni kuma ban da kuɗin kuma kullum kuɗin laluran da sana'ar da zan yi ba sa karkare min lalura na nauyin ni karan kaina da kuma gidana iyalina ba za su ɗauka min wannan nauyin to ba shi ne wanda za a dinga bina har zai fi ƙarfina. Yanzu da na bar siyar da shayi sai ni kama ya duka aka dinga bani ina dan sassara ina dan zuzuwa ni ya ni sai wani aboki na ya jawo ni ina dinga bani ina dinga sayarwa ina dan samu abinci ba wai asalin jari na bane ka gane ma'ana ba wai na samu jari bane a lokacin amma na dai samu hanya wani aboki na mun hanya aka dinga bani kayan ni ma ina samu wani abu kuma a nan cikin wannan hanyar da ni samu na samu fafaɗa kawo wannan harkokin ka gane ma'ana na samu fafaɗakar abubuwa ina ɗan samun canjin yanayi kuma masha Allah muna ɗan ci muna sha masha Allah a cikin wannan abu sai ni ɗan tattara kuɗin a hankali na shiga wani adashi ina ɗan kaɗan sai ni ga na ɗan samu kuɗin da zan yi aure sai ni zo ni ɗan hakaɗa aka ɗan yi mun sai ni samu ni yi auren ba tare da na ci bashi da yawa ba. Da safe idan na fito sai zuwa yamma in na samu wannan kuɗin sai in tura musu 1000 sai in ce su dan saya abincin kafin in dawo. Ina yawo ne ina kai ma wannan in dan bashi a wannan lifto ina bashi akan 400 ni ma ina cin 50 wani lokaci in ci 60 wani lokaci in ci 40 sai in ba su ma akan sari su ma sai su bani kuɗi na sai in wuce in je inda wannan shi ma in bashi shi ma ya ɗauki 2 ko 3 4 5 a haka nake dan kakkalata nake dan samu abin da na ciyar da yarana da kuma kuɗin makarantar da yaran da suke zuwa. Gaskiya rayuwa Abuja akwai tsada wanda yake na farko dai idan ka shigo Abuja tsare-tsaren da akwai na rayuwa abinda duk ka san za ka same shi a Suleja naira 100 a nan za ka iya samun shi 250 ko 200 ko 300 to amma kuma duka da yake yadda za ka samu kuɗi nan ba ya ɗaya kuma da Suleja shafshaf za ka same nan yadda za ka same ya shafshaf sai dai kuma tsadar rayuwar nan da can za ka tafi za ka kashe kuɗi wanda a Suleja za a yi ɗaukar ka naira 50 to anan za a yi ɗaukar ka naira 100 ne. Kwana na Abuja gaskiya wani mai shago ne muke samu idan ya gama kasuwa ko da zai kai 12 to sai ya tashi sai ya bamu mu dan kwanta gari ya waye sai mu abin nan sai mu fita a tsadar rayuwar da muke ciki gaskiya dan ni ba zan iya kama daki a inda nake tallan na in kama daki in ce in dinga kwana ba a cikin Abuja dan ya fi karfi na wallahi gaskiya daki kusan 100,000 kuma in biya kuma in kama a wannan sana'a gaskiya ba zan iya ba sai dai in bari in ya gama sana'a te ya tattara har karfe nawa ko da ina jin bacci zan yi ta hakuri har sai ya gama ya tashi sannan zo in dan laba bisa benci nike kwana sai in kwanta. Gaskiya abin da nake so ni yanzu Allah ya taimake ni zan dai na samu jari sosai kuma ni ma na samu wadata arziki na dan arziki haka wanda zan taimaka ma na ƙasa gare ni wanda bai da in taimaka masa wanda adda in ƙara tsoratar da shi Allah ya ji tsoro Allah ya taimaka ma na ƙasa gare shine kawai guri na yanzu mu zama muna tausaya mu junanmu gaba ɗaya muna kyauta mu junanmu gaba ɗaya.
Good morning. It's 7 a.m. here in the capital city of Abuja. I'm Zainab Bala.
It's indeed a beautiful morning here in the capital city. I'm Sunday Michael Ogu. Thanks for joining us.
Our headlines for you this morning. President Buhari orders Emefiele to step down.
Fun seekers killed as explosion rocked beer parlor in Kogi.
Governor El-Rufai declares support for Tinubu.
And Buhari would not investigate those obtaining 100 million naira form, says Garba Shehu. Now this story in detail. Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State has openly declared his support for the presidential aspiration of the national leader of the All Progressive Congress, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. El-Rufai made the declaration at the Murtala Square in Kaduna, where the national leader of the APC, accompanied by the former governor of Borno State, Kashim Shettima, and former EFCC boss, Nuhu Ribadu, and other dignitaries canvassed support from delegates. Shettima had earlier assured the delegates that the Kaduna State Governor, Madam Nasir El-Rufai, was solidly behind their side. El-Rufai said he would need the support of the delegate from Kaduna State to make a decision.
The Senior Special Assistant to President Muhammadu Buhari on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, has said that the President would not investigate how aspirants for purchasing forms with whooping sums of money. He disclosed this while featuring on a Channels TV program on Thursday. No fewer than 30 aspirants have picked the ruling party's presidential nomination and expression of interest forms. According to Shehu, it is the job of the anti-graft agencies, the media and civil society organizations to find out the source of such funds and not the president.
3 persons were found dead and many others injured in an explosion in Kaba, the headquarters of the Kaba-Bunu local government area of Kogi State. An eyewitness said the incident occurred at a beer parlor around Lewu Junction, Kaba, on Wednesday around 9:45 p.m. The Kogi State Commissioner of Police, Edward Egbuka, who confirmed the incident, said it was a gas explosion and not a bomb blast, as was being reported in some quarters. A statement by the Police Public Relations Officer of the State Command, SP Williams Ovie Aya, on behalf of the Commissioner, said the lady was killed and many others injured. The statement added that the Commissioner has ordered an investigation into the incident to unravel the cause of the explosion and urged members of the public to go about their lawful business without fear.
Well, that's it on the news highlight. Now let's take a look at some more reports for you. Now, Justice Ahmed Mohammed of the Federal High Court Abuja has adjourned till May 23rd, 2022, the suit on the eligibility of the Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, to join the 2023 presidential race. This follows the involvement of a third and fourth defendant, the opposition party, PDP, and a civil society organization, Save Nigeria, who both joined INEC and the Attorney General of the Federation to challenge Emefiele's eligibility to contest while still serving as CBN governor. Emefiele had, through his counsel, Chief Mike Ozekome, applied for an order restraining INEC and AGO from asking the CBN governor to resign until 30 days to the general election. Remi Olatubora. Meridia Umar reports.
After the court sitting, Mike Ozekome, senior advocate of Nigeria, who was the counsel to the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, speaks on the sordid involvement of the PDP and Save Nigeria as the third and fourth defendants.
I deliberately didn't oppose the application. One, when we filed this matter, we did not then know, nor was I briefed, as to which party Godwin Emefiele would be defecting to. And I know that up to now he has not told any Nigerians. So it is still based on speculations, social media speculations and all that. So I was very creative and careful in my drafting by saying any political party. Any political party. So it would have been a contradiction in terms that PDP now wanted to join. Then I would say no. They are not a necessary party, because I have not said I have any grounds against them. But in law, using the case of Green versus Green, they are an interested party. Can I show them out? Whatever comes to Emefiele will definitely affect them. So I refuse to oppose their journey. I said, my Lord, join them.
Counsel to the PDP, Remi Olatubora, also speaks on their involvement in the suit.
Well, the PDP applied to be joined. We represented them, and the court joined them. They joined the PDP as a political party, since it's also going to feature a presidential candidate. So it has interest. The matter has been adjourned to 23rd of May for hearing, adoption of all addresses, and the court also gave orders that we should file within specified timelines. So we are ready to abide.
The defendants and plaintiff will appear in court on the 23rd of May for ruling on the matter. Martia Umar, Trust TV News, Abuja.
There you go. The Nigerian Army says it is making progress in addressing the nation's security challenges. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahya, said this at the opening ceremony of the 2022 Combat Arms Training Week in Jaji, Kaduna Northwest.
The combined Combat Arms Training Week of the Nigerian Army Infantry Armored Corps is to explore alternative and more impactful method of boosting the operational effectiveness of the Nigerian Army.
As you are all aware, the Combat Arms Training Week is an annual training event organized to appraise the activities of the maneuver arms in their quest to achieve the mission of the Nigerian Army. The event has traditionally mustered distinguished serving and retired personnel of the maneuver arms, as well as other resource persons who have helped to conceptualize effective strategies for enhancing the capability and capacity of the Nigerian Army, especially in this era of heightened national security challenges.
The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahya, said, through effective training, proper planning and result-oriented employment of resources, the Nigerian Army is poised to defeat the nation's adversaries.
All the successes we are recording also across board are a reflection of our training. And we continue to improve on this training so that we can continue to improve also on our gains across the theaters of operation in whatever we do. I want to appreciate all the troops for all that they are doing, and what we continue to do is to provide them with necessary skills and competencies, including also requisite equipment and other enablers in order to improve our competencies and our reach to addressing the security challenges.
The theme of the 2022 Combat Arms Training Week is Effective Combat Arms Maneuver, a panacea for success in battle. Lami Sadiq, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
Oh, there you go. Now let's have our paper reviews now.
But in a situation where you find that a look at the
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Welcome back to Daybreak on Trust Television. If you're just joining us, this is the newspaper review segment where our analysts will be drilling down on some of the issues that have made the covers of the national dailies this morning. We already have a reviewer in the studio, but before then, we would take a quick rundown of most of the dailies we have in the studios this morning. And we are starting off with the Daily Trust newspaper. And in the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, we have a kicker ahead of APC PDP primaries. Naira crashes further as aspirants mop up dollars. US dollar sells for $5.95 at black market as demand spikes. Experts predict dark days. And BDC operators blame politicians. You will have also on the cover an elegant photograph of the president and recipients of the 19th National Productivity Day celebration. Some notable faces therein. The chairman of Zenith Bank, we have the Kogi State governor there. We have Alan Onyema of Air Peace and quite a number of other Nigerians who picked up the award yesterday at the presidential villa. We also have directly below that Sultan Tambo Al-Kuka condemned killing of student accused of blasphemy. You'll find that story on page 6. And below that we have petrol agency counters marketers says 558 billion naira paid in 6 months. Kaduna councillor arrested with AK-47 near kidnappers den. That story is on page 26. And we have Bauchi Emir denies endorsing Oshibajo. You'll find that story on page 10 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And directly below the name marks is what appears clearly as the second lead of the paper. Nigerians can have a heart attack. I am having a lot of fun, says Emefiele. INEC Mall's relocation of sensitive materials from the Central Bank of Nigeria. These stories you'll find on pages 5 and pages 10 of the Daily Trust newspaper.
Oh, really very interesting stories, I must say here. And we have our reviewer here in the studio as usual. On Fridays, we get to have him here, Nuruddin Abdullah. He's the editor
of 21st Century Chronicles, yes. The last time we said editor-in-chief and he declined that position. So now we have gotten that nomenclature correct. Thank you very much for finding time to be with us in the studio once again. It's another beautiful Friday, and I hope it is for you as well. You have listened to the major stories on the covers of the Daily Trust. What do you make of this incessant rush for the dollar every time? You would wonder whether the dollar is a ballot paper for the next election. Let us have your thoughts on this mopping up of the dollar.
Yes, it is not surprising, bearing in mind that INEC has fixed June 3rd of the final day for the submission of candidates. And almost all the two major parties, we have 18, are apparently going for primaries. It may not surprise you that, they are going for dollar, because if you look at the prices of the expression of interest as well as the nomination forms for the ruling party, it is 100 million naira. For the opposition PDP, it's around 40 million. So, and you look at it, they are now nation trotting, right? Country trotting, not globe trotting, seeking for delegates. So the delegates, they're
priced in dollars,
that ambitious brides. Of course, that is it. So you have to have enough dollar. It's easy to package and give instead of the naira. Maybe the delegate will tell you, we trade in naira, not in dollar. So that explains it.
Is there nothing we can do? I mean, you and I know that this has been going on for too long. Well, not like even if it's offered in naira, it's still not proper. Is there nothing we can do to, as much as possible, reduce the influence of money in this whole electoral process to the barest minimum?
Not in the nearest future, Mr. Sunday, realistically, because if all the ingredients of good governance are in place, if, for instance, you campaign to be a senator or House of Reps member from your constituency, and in the last 4 years you have done so much for your constituents, they don't ask for money, but they know you as a good man. You campaign for them. You didn't give them money, and they voted for you. You squandered that goodwill, just like the Buhari administration. Do you remember how the government came in? Truck pushers, commercial motorcyclists, downfall drivers, market women. They bought a recharge card and sent to the man, believing that he has what it takes to take them out of the doldrum. But what happened? 7 years and accounting. They have all lost hope. So that is why it is not surprising that the 2023 election has been dollarized. It is not surprising. The man that so much many Nigerians believed in has grossly disappointed them. Like I said earlier, he disappointed everybody minus himself. So now, it is not about, what else can you say? He talk, all the things he said he will do, he won't do, he did them. All the things he promised, he didn't achieve any. So what else? Which cry, again? He cried on the television, right? Crocodile tears. So, you know, Nigerians have been scammed. That's the right word. So they won't be scammed for the second time. No. That is why now, you know, they are just for the highest bidder, right from the delegates. No sweet talk any longer. No. Look at President Buhari. Since 2003, we have been with him. We bought the recharge card for him, the only candidate in the history of Nigeria. They went there without money, goodwill. But where are we today?
So I guess we have to follow the money then.
Apparently, that is it. So it is not surprising that maybe before even in the next 2 weeks, maybe the dollar may kick 1,000. Who knows?
Interesting.
Look at this desperation and what if it?
Interesting.
So it's sad.
Truly, really sad. There are quite a number of stories, thousands of them on our dailies this morning. And one that seemed to be everywhere, you know, is the story that we saw yesterday, you know, in Sokoto, of the killing of a student, you know, by her other colleagues. And then we're seeing that the Sultan, Tambol, and other religious leaders are condemning, you know, that act. In your assessment, how do you see this situation?
You know, that's absolute madness. Yes, madness. She was alleged to have made some uncomplimentary remarks to the Holy Prophet of Islam here. That is an abomination. But there are rules and regulations governing that. Mob action is not one of them. And, you know, it's a recurring dismal. And I hope, Tambol is a lawyer, despite sometimes the political sentiments that I was discussing with my boss last night. He's a lawyer, yes. And you can see it is nothing but absolute ignorance. Look at, I think he must be the one that was arrested. Even brandishing his ID on one of the videos. And look at the humanity. Zero humanity. Zero, absolute, zero Talibanistic, Boko Haram tendencies. Yes, she committed an offense in your own, what name? You are not the law. And another thing that maybe don't accept the situation school authorities should have done is the securities people there should have taken her out of the school. That's what happened in Gombe in the past. When a teacher supervising some students caught one of the students who happened to be a Muslim committing exam malpractice. I think maybe it was an Arabic, whatever, out of here, and she hid something. She brought it out. It was an expo. Then, lo and behold, she shouted that she has insulted or she has torn a holy whatever. And before you know it, the principal of that school took the lady, the invigilator, and hit her in his own class. Like they burned down the Sokoto security outposts. They burned down the principal's office. We had the same issue in Talata Mafara last year, where a student was burned down. She was hidden by her colleagues. They burned down the room where she was living. So it's a recurring dismal. Therefore, particularly the northern state, there should be effective mechanism put in place to avoid this. You remember what happened in Rimi Market in Kano? The woman trader, somebody did ablution on her, what they call domot, you know. And you know, if you go to those markets, they do ablution and, you know, and just mess up the whole part. And the woman could not complain. She complained, and lo and behold, they said that she committed blasphemy. And some rampaging mobs descended on her, and she was killed. There should be an end to this. The Abrahamic religions that we practice here is not a key to madness, no. All the three prophets that we sent, they made people living like animals, jungle justice, but they ensure divine justice, fairness. So I hope we'll use the case in Sokoto. Those guys must be brought to book. 2 were arrested, and there will be more. So what we expect from the police, particularly the police hierarchy, because in most cases you will see there won't be diligent prosecution. The DPO in charge of the case, for instance, now, the moment he is transferred to another location, that's the end. Or there will be a time that he may not even have the transport money to transport himself to the court. So I believe that the Sokoto State government has a stake here. The police headquarters here in Abuja has a stake here. There should be diligent prosecution so that we will put an end to this madness.
Something of a very important note listening to you is the fact that sometimes these accusations could even be wrong. But before the person ever gets the opportunity to defend himself or prove his innocence, this mob action has already sniffed life out of his individual. I recall sometimes in about 10 years ago, in 2012, 2011, I was also in the bank. I was billed to travel for some sensitive assignment. And I came in, and a cleaner who did not show up for work early came in and disrupted the computers from where I was supposed to print out sensitive documents to embark on a very important journey. That was around when AMCON was mopping up bad debts from the bank, and we were preparing documentations of what debts were to be taken. And I said to him, Shay is his name, from Bauchi, what you are doing is wrong. You should have showed up here much earlier. Now you are disrupting, you've shut down the computers. If I'm unable to do this earlier, I'm unable to get the flight. This transaction is dead on arrival. And he said, well, that's my business. I came in when he was supposed to be cleaning. And I said, no, you won't say that to me, because overall, if we don't make money in the branch, you don't get paid. And when his superiors come around, he told them that I was blaspheming the Prophet Muhammad. And some junior staff was to jump on it until a sensible person said to them, but this person has never disrespected us before. Why would a lowly rated cleaner come up with a complaint that is not investigated and we jump on it? And luckily, the CCTVs were on. That was my saving grace. So that's the importance of getting the opportunity to have your say, before any kind of action is taken upon you. It's a sensitive thing in this country, and we must find a way to check jungle justice. I hope, like you rightly mentioned, the governor is a lawyer. That is the seat of the caliphate, and condemning it is the first thing, and the police have done some arrests. We hope that we move on from there to achieve some kind of result with that. We move on to This Day newspaper, and on the cover of This Day newspaper is also keeping touch with what is happening in the political sphere. We have the major story: 24 hours after presidential directive to political appointees to resign, Emefiele meets Buhari. That was one prominent feature yesterday coming out from there. And the riders there read, AGF, INEC honor court summons as PDP orders join CBN governor's suit. Court orders accelerated hearing. FG direct ministers, heads of agencies, ambassadors, other appointees nursing political ambition in 2023 to resign. Afenifele hails Buhari, charges him to be decisive too in tackling Nigeria's problem. And you'll find a picture of one of Nigeria's finest judges in the Supreme Court, Justice Mary Odili, as she bows out yesterday from the Supreme Court, and beside her is the former governor of Rivers State and also her husband, Peter Odili. How time flies, and she doesn't look 70 at all in that picture, if you like. At the top of the paper, right above the name marks, you have Buhari signs 3 bills to fight terrorism, money laundering, and other financial crimes into law. The rider just read, vows to rid Nigeria of menace of terrorism. FG, Nigeria's winning war against bandits and terrorists. And then below that, you find 2023 APC presidential appearance working on landmines. You find a story on page 5. Whatever these landmines are, I'm sure the story would reveal in detail. And right below the name marks, you have the story also, 2023, Saraki vows to fix Nigeria's security. and economic challenges. He was speaking yesterday to a number of delegates. You'll find that story on page 42. And directly below that, you find the story, questions mount over MTN alleged payments of 618 billion naira taxes to the FIRS. As this day checks uncovers discrepancies in actual amount, parties' reluctance to offer any explanation. And by this, I suppose it's both the FIRS and the MTN group. I hope some kind of hanky-panky is not taking place to the detriment of the Nigerian government. Following threat by Islamic extremists, Atiku delete Facebook, Twitter post condemning Deborah's mother. Amazing. Amazing. These are the major stories you'll find on the cover of the Daily Trust. What did you make of that CBN governor's visit to Buhari yesterday? What does this signpost, especially given that it was coming shortly after the presidential directive and the kind of comments that he made, you know, upon coming out of that engagement with the president?
So you see, I couldn't actually, as a politician seeking our votes, that comment that his critics, that is we, that are saying that no, why can't Naira crash when the man who is supposed to stabilize it is busy politicking? Yes, that's the question we should ask.
But it has been crashing even before he started politicking.
No, it's worse now. It's worse now.
Yeah.
So, and you know, the audacity of the governor, particularly the way he talked, as if he was coming from the presidential villa, not a pub.
That's right.
You understand? So that, okay, we that criticize him can go to hell. We should have attack. No. He's a public servant. We have the right to ask what he does. He's controlling our economy. If he's in Zenith Bank, for instance, even Zenith Bank, he's responsible to the shareholders. So I think his comments were derogatory and uncomplimentary and despicable, particularly somebody who is seeking our votes to lead us. So if he gets there, what else can he do? You know, everything goes in Nigeria. So we are happy with what the president did the day before yesterday. Yes, he woke up from his slumber after the almost government has been grounded. Like I mentioned, sometimes, you know, 62 Nigerians, law-abiding Nigerians, are still with the terrorists. This is getting to 50 days. Almost 2 weeks after the presidential directive to the security agencies to rescue them. The minister supervising the agency where they were abducted is busy running from one state of the federation to the other, canvassing for votes.
Maybe he needs presidential powers to be able to free those who were adopted, perhaps.
There was a directive, you mentioned it here. He gave the directive almost 30 days after the abduction. And now getting to 50 days, there is no news. The junior minister of education, a professor, ASU has done 3 months. Our younger brothers are still at home. And now they have another warning strike. You know, they have just lasted here for another 3 months. And he's busy. He has the audacity to sit in that office and be saying that he wants to be president. The minister who should resolve the conflict between the workers and the federal government is running from one pole to the other, trying to be president. That's the Minister of Labor. So I think maybe the president has been, you know, he respects outsiders more than he respects Nigerians. Maybe some embassies and some foreign leaders complain to him. It's Mr. President, you are embarrassing your country. Almost all your key ministries, including the CBN, unprecedented. Imagine a chancellor of the Exchequer in the NRS in the UK, vying to be a member of the House of, or the president, the chairman of the Federal Reserve in the US, joining the Democratic race or the Republican race. No. Even if there are no outright laws that prohibit those, morally, because in Nigeria we moralize, but our actions are grossly immoral. You should know that no. CBN controls is in the custody of the sensitive and materials, and the guy in charge wants to be president. How about?
The union subscribed to Sheikh Hussaini's call that we move sensitive materials to the Imam. And the pastor for safekeep now that the Caesar of the Apex Bank is an interested party.
But the problem with Imam, they are busy endorsing these politicians.
But some of them have stayed true to their callings on the pulpit.
Okay, now which church? Okay, let's give it to church. Are we giving it to the Catholic, or are we giving it to Pentecostal? When you come to Pentecost, is it the Redeemed? Are we giving it to? Or are we giving it to the Bucharest Church?
Amazing. Amazing how to look at those perspectives.
So actually, we don't know why he told the president yesterday. And I'm happy that the president was so livid with anger on Wednesday. You know, the way he spoke. And you know, that judgment, that's Court of Appeal judgment. You know, it came with dual pronouncement. The court said something, and quickly they contradicted themselves. The man that went to with due respect to her lordship in Abakaliki, you know, that granted that judgment. Is it Abba? Okay, it's Abba. Oh, no wonder. That lady, her lordship in Abba, that granted that ordered Attorney General to delete section 84, section 12, you know. The Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal did the right thing. They said that the guy that took the matter to that one has no locus, has no business. Husband and wife are fighting. Then you institute a suit seeking for divorce on behalf of the wife. As who? That's exactly what the man did. They call it meddlesome interloper.
Well, maybe as a vanguard for the protection of democracy, if you like.
So, yeah. After that, we're happy. Then they said that they look at the case on merit. You know that Abba, her lordship in Abba Market, Abba Court, you know, get an order that the Attorney General should delete the section immediately. But the Court of Appeal yesterday, on Wednesday, said they look at the case, apart from saying that that man, they dismissed the entire thing was a nullity because the man has no locus. That's why even if you have to take a matter to a court, it has to be court of competent jurisdiction. You understand? Then when they said they look at the matter on its merit and said that what the National Assembly members did was entirely unconstitutional. But we're happy that there was no consequential order. It was just a pronouncement, but there was no consequential order.
Setting aside
that order. So we are happy that before the president's men, the MFLF, the Malamis, and what if you went and confused Baba, he quickly sent that circular. And it's a service-wide circular. Ambassador, he rope up everybody. Ambassadors.
And there are quite a number of them actually in Abuja, as we know. Head of agency.
They have left their mission and they are now moving.
They are operating from Siberia.
Do you see him resigning, or where do you see this?
What do you mean?
The way things are happening now, his tenure ends June 4th, 2024. He has 2 solid years remaining. So it's a gamble. Is he the anointed candidate? I think only that maybe if he drinks, that he will step down as CBN governor, go to that primaries, and lose again.
So apparently, in drawing conclusions, you are suggesting that he could have sounded that arrogant because he has concluded to stay back.
Apparently.
Really interesting.
Yes, apparently. Because he's not the anointed candidate, apparently. If he were the anointed candidate, he can insult us and go free. But you say that we should go to hell, we should have a heart attack. Simply because we are saying, Mr. CBN governor, no.
When he says heart attack is good.
good for him.
Okay, let's take a look at some more papers this morning. Taking a look at the Nigerian Tribune, and the Nigerian Tribune leads with quite a different story, I must say. The issue of the alleged blasphemy, outrage over killing of female student in Sokoto, police arrest 2, government meets Khan, and then Sultan Kuka wants perpetrators brought to justice. And then you find other stories on the Nigerian Tribune, right at the top on page 5. Pilot daughter of ex-minister, 10 others die in plane crash. And then there's a writer there that says why we can't investigate crashed plane. AIB, it's coming from the AIB. Details of that story is on page 5. And on page 3, 2023, SGF writes ambassadors, heads of parastatals, others with political ambition to vacate seats. Ngige hopeful of fruitful end to strike as ASU, SANU, NASU, NAT, NLC meets federal government team. You'd find other stories as well. On page 3, Ohaneze, Pandef, knock PDP for throwing presidential ticket open. Then 32 states, 233 local governments risk flood disasters, federal government warns. INEC to adopt manual electronic transmission of result. Okay. Details of that is on page 2. And then federal government licenses 12 new private universities. Universities now to decal 30% of curriculum. This is according to the NUC. And on page 2, you'd see where Emefiele is saying, I'm having fun, let Nigerians have heart attack. Keep a date with Destiny on May 29, Bello campaign, DG, divulges. And then you see Tinubu saying, I don't know where others are running to. I'm running to the villa. That's very, sounds really assuring, I must say. And that's on page 3 on the Nigerian Tribune. And on page 3 also, you see my ambition is to fill gaps left behind by Buhari. This is according to Fahimi. These are the major stories on the Nigerian Tribune.
Interesting. Again, we have the story of the outrage over the killing in Sokoto, which we have sufficiently dealt with with comments from our analyst, while taking a look at the first paper. But here, another story that is of interest here is Ngige, hopeful of fruitful end to strike as ASU, SANU, NASU, NAT, NLC meets FG team. He's one man who should have also put in his paper, but we understand is here to raise the 100 million naira. I wonder if this is an assignment he's able to deliver, given that he's running against time, haven't publicly admitted he would contest. Do you think this conversation with these bodies have served out its relevance as far as these ministers are concerned and should be elevated to more senior government functionaries?
The government is not serious. If the government cannot, what else can the government tell us, for instance?
Well, the Senate President said yesterday that the 2009 demand of ASU is unrealistic 13 years after.
13 years after. I don't want to use some complimentary. He's a Muslim, I don't think he drinks. So, yes. We borrowed money from the Bretton Woods and IMF, right? You signed these agreements. So 20 years after, you say you won't pay. You have to renegotiate. Isn't it absurd? All the loans this government made, have they renegotiated them? Or have they said that it is absurd to implement agreements, bilateral or multilateral agreements reached by President Obasanjo's regime, Eradua's regime or Jonathan's regime, or even by military regimes? No. It simply shows you the Senate President's sons and daughters are not in public universities. If not, you don't have the audacity to say that. And surprisingly, before 1999, he was in University of Maiduguri as a teacher. If you were still there, you don't have said this. Again, come to think of it, we're talking about 200 billion. We are talking about UTAS instead of IPPS. The academics said it, and they are right. You can't just lump up everybody. We are not civil servants per se. We have all manner of allowances if you work in the system. So create our own payment system. That's what they're saying. They created one. You remember what happened in Nida and what if you? 200 billion. We are spending over 4 trillion naira on subsidy alone. And there are still fuel shortages, queues, and threats from all stakeholders in the industry. What does it take? If I were the president, 200 billion, I will use my ways and means. Go with your wahala. But you can't come 7 years after and be saying that the agreement reached with your predecessor is a nullity. Impossible.
Interesting to also note that the Senate president has also picked his form to run for the presidency. It's just that, just like Tinubu is saying, he doesn't know where they're running to. We're not sure where he's running to because he has 2 forms, one running to the Senate and the other one running towards Aso Rock. I hope that he's not already giving us a manifesto of what he will do once he becomes the president as far as issues like this.
If you, if you accuse, look at this ASU issue. Yes, because, you know, most of the young men are Facebook generation. They don't see beyond. If it is not on Facebook or it's not on Twitter, and now it's even Instagram. They can't even read. More than a picture, nothing else. That's how we have been reduced. Look at it. ASU is the only labor union in the country that has not been compromised. NLC is gone. The military have bastardized it. But ASU remains the only one that you cannot infiltrate. You cannot pack it. Go to all public institutions, universities, both state and federal. The only new structures you see are from TED Fund.
Right.
Who fought for the establishment of TED Fund and ensuring that only an academic, not a politician, a failed politician, can lead TED Fund? ASU. Just a simple example. Go to all the universities, colleges of education, what have you. TED Fund, TED Fund, TED Fund. It's one of the spoils of war won by ASU. But now they look at it, you know, they want to. No.
Interested.
And see, the Senate president has created one university and allocated it to his village in Gashua. Yes. So.
Well, those are issues for another day. We move on to the leadership newspaper for Friday. And on the leadership newspaper, we have a slightly different variant. The major headline there on leadership, it's for abandoning zoning principles, Southeast to dump PDP after 23 years of party loyalty. You'll find that story on page 4 of leadership newspaper. South leaders kick, says party has dug its grave. Atiku, Wike, IM, Obi, Emmanuel intensify consultation. I will be a bridge builder between the North and the South, Saraki declares. And just below the nameplate, quite a number of headlines there. Deborah Tamboa Sultan Kuka appeals for calm, demands justice. Another story there reads, ISIS releases video on execution of 20 Nigerians in Borno. That is shocking. Odili retires from Supreme Court, backs restructuring. Interesting. Jonathan, not yet registered member, Bayelsa APC insists. I mean, Jonathan is in today, is out tomorrow, is a ward member, is not a state member, he needs clearance from the national. I mean, Jonathan is everywhere, and you know, just days to the primary election. And we find a picture of the Minister for Interior as well as the Minister for Information there with other persons in that photograph. I think we are unable to, the captions is not exactly very clear, but just next to the picture we find quick notice. Emefiele visit PNB, urges Nigeria to expect news. Well, whether it's continuity or quitting the central bank, time will tell between now and Monday. Ewu Gas pilot's daughter, 11 others die in plane crash in Cameroon. Wow. Fuel scarcity, FG fault Ipman's 500 billion naira bridging claim. And well, at the top side, you also have another picture of an award from the leadership group to the governor of this, I think is the governor, it's Akwa Ibom State, yeah. Governor of Akwa Ibom State there receiving his award from the leadership group. Talk to us about these threats from the southeast of dumping the PDP. Dumping the PDP for what exactly? They tell us they would now apply the sit-at-home rule and annihilate themselves basically from the 2023 election. Is this a win-win? I mean, is this the solution or an alternative to what it is right now for the southeast?
I don't know. You know, yesterday I read the barbs between Chief Edwin Clark and Ojo Kalu and what have you. They can only dump the PDP if IPOP, as we call it, taking over the political space. Mm-hmm. You know, IPOP has taken over the economic space in the southeast, just like they have taken over the security situation. Now I sit at home. Now maybe the politicians must have been taken over by IPOP. They will say that, okay, they will back up. To go away. If you leave PDP, if they leave PDP, for instance, are they get an automatic ticket on APC? No. Again, how many people bought tickets from the Saudis and bought the parties? It is beyond, like I said several times, Mr. Sunday, it is beyond zoning. You can't zone just to lose. There are certain zoning that if you do, by 9 o'clock on the election day, your fate is sealed. You have to look at the political ecosystem. You have to look at the political demography of the country. PDP did it in the past. That is why, you know, they break the odds and throw open the presidential ticket. You can't just restrict it to South, for instance. Say, okay, you are presenting Wiki as the PDP presidential candidate. No. He can't even deliver the South. No talk of the North. The acceptability of a candidate matters. In the South-East, for instance, now, how many of their politicians have national outlook?
I found this on the web.
Have national outlook, for instance. I'm not saying minus Okorocha, to a certain extent, Oji Uzokalu, maybe Peter Obi. All the rest will go nowhere. So that's the reality. And you know, these people, like I said, in the past, they have made efforts to cross the bridges, to extend hands of friendship to other zones of the country. But you can't come from your village simply because you are Igbo by extraction, and you must be president, and it must be zoned to you. No serious political party will commit that political kamikaze. It's a reality. And that is why even the APC, it's not about them. That's why everybody is buying the form. If they lie, they can do it at home, like IPOP is now destroying the economy. They should think beyond, and unfortunately, like what Jules Kalu said, some people from the other, like Chief Edwin Clark, it is now that he has seen the vision to say that it is the Igbos that will be president. He didn't make those advocacy in 2011 when he was the, he promoted himself as the father of the president at that time. He didn't make such advocacies in 2011. He didn't do it in 2015 when the thing was in the South. So that's the reality.
Well, we're seeing Saraki saying he will be a bridge between the North and the South. Do you think he has anything like that to offer?
He was Senate president. That's why it's a national something. And bearing in mind the legacy of his father, was former Senate president, in the Second Republic. Maybe he has that cloud, He's clinking into something. Just like Bankole. Bankole became, you remember, Bankole became speaker. Not because of Bankole. He was a military officer in the UK. No, but because of his father, who was an MPN chieftain. And what did the father did? He went around the country at the background, said, this is my son, please support him. And that's what happened. But as you can't just spring up from your sleep or from your village and say you must be. It's just like the women advocacy. Women must be given these women. Whereas the women they constitute the highest number of voters, right? But I'm surprised that they don't even vote for their women again. A presidential candidate got only one vote. At the Eagle Square, I remember that time.
I know how you are quick to remind us of that one vote from the presidential.
You understand?
She probably doesn't have 100 million naira to spend like the men. Have you taken that into account?
Now should have been the rest. So, that's the reality. It simply means that women don't do their homework, just like the Igbos don't do your homework. It's a long process, you understand? Not on the eve of the election. You'll be triggered by some IPOP who don't look at it. I was telling a friend, I said, this IPOP people, I have a neighbor, Kaduna. He's into real estate. My street, he owns so many houses. So there was a time, Wazirike of Masop said that he was sending 20 Marco Polo buses to evacuate all the Igbos back to
the east,
southeast. So I told him, I said, okay, Chief, the Marco Polo, where is this station in Kaduna here, the one they are sending to Kaduna? Please, if you are going, this is your house, I will take it over. He laughed. He said, that guy is crazy. So he believed that 20 Marco Polo will evacuate the Igbos from the north back to the south. So it's simply somebody who was born and brought up in one Kalagu or one Agbo. He has never even crossed to Abuja, not to talk of the north. So that is the mentality. They don't know Nigeria. Look at just what they're saying that, okay, you are advocating. You should come to Abuja, and if, for instance, now the IPOP come to Abuja and say that we shouldn't go to work, businesses should not open, then maybe they will make a political statement. But your village, you stay in your village, your brother who is selling spare parts, or a market woman who is saying agbo, fish, stockfish, and whatever, you say that you should not sell. Who is deceiving who, for instance? Of what political importance to the advocacy, maybe the agitation, this is? So this is the reality. The Igbos, with all respect, politically they're a minority. You have to align with other groups to make serious. In 2015, it was a good opportunity for them, but they squandered it, you understand? If, for instance, they would have aligned with the APC at that time, during that Buhari mass movement, they have gotten something. And another thing, they should address the issue of unity among them. Let's look at it now. Let's microzone. Let's PDP, for instance, microzone the presidency, let's say, to the southeast. The southeast should produce one candidate. They won't be able to do
I
so.
think that's where the problem lies.
We saw it during the Obasanjo regime. In less than 4 years, we had about 3 or 4 Igbo Senate presidents. They don't agree among themselves, with all due respect. So there are certain internal things that you should address before you come. And it is not just you just go to sleep on the eve of the election, you come on the pages of the newspaper. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to work. Okorocha has been doing this thing with all due respect, you know. There's somebody that he can go to Kano and campaign freely, and you will see he will gather crowds. He can go to Jos, he can go to Sokoto and whatever. Oji Uzakano, he can go to Maiduguri. Because, you know, over the years, they have created that fellowship.
Right.
Maybe Peter Obi, you know, he's saying with the youth, with what he did in Anambra, for instance. But when you say that, no, it is my ethnicity that will give me this position. No.
No.
Interesting.
I have to wrap up here, unfortunately. It's been very interesting speaking to you about some of this very interesting stories on our dailies this morning.
Thank you, Lena.
It's a pleasure to have
thank
you
you.
in the
It's my
studio.
pleasure, too.
You have a great Friday ahead.
Thank you.
This is where we draw the curtains on the newspaper review for this morning, Friday morning, if you like. We will take a short breather, and when we return, the program continue. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Daily, we bring you updates around politics.
People like you who are very young, you have no future. Anybody now who is 30 years, if what is happening today continues, by the time you are 60, you will have no country.
The DPO of a particular unit does not have to wait until the commissioner tells him what to do within his jurisdiction.
We have political parties on the ground. Some of them have been there for years. But they themselves, in their own sober moments, they know that this country is not the one they're expecting to run.
Policy and governance.
Are you saying the NBS is lying? I'm saying to you very clearly that the NBS has a serious problem with accurate data till today.
The 5th Assembly, as well as the 7th Assembly, their own attempt were unproductive.
Emergence of the Taliban has simply emboldened terror groups globally.
There is a lot of attention with regards to security developments in Nigeria.
On Daily Politics, we interrogate issues, holding the actors to account, bearing in mind all the sides.
We heard that in some places now, people have to go and pay tax, not to the local government, not to the state, but to criminals.
Nobody can come to your house and kidnap you without information.
If this country is bleeding, it is bleeding because we have failed to educate our young.
Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television. It's 8 a.m. in the morning. This is that part of the program where if we were in a flight, the pilot would say, we have commenced our initial descent into our location. I am Sunday Michael Ogu. And with me in the studio.
And I'm Zainab Bala. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning.
A quick rundown on the headline this morning. President Buhari orders Emefiele to step down. Southeast to boycott elections if denied presidential ticket. And Governor El-Rufai declares support for Tinubu. Final Elden Rap, alleged blasphemy. Police commence investigation and arrest 2 suspects. Now the news in details. President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered the resignation of Godwin Emefiele, governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and other political appointees seeking to contest the 2023 elections. The order was given in a circular issued by Boss Mustafa, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, yesterday. The CBN governor was copied in the circular titled Ministers, Heads of Government, Agencies, Ambassadors, and other appointees with political ambitions to resign. Emefiele had been under pressure since some group purchased the 2023 political presidential forms of the ruling All Progressive Party Congress for him.
Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State has openly declared his support for the presidential aspiration of the national leader of the All Progressive Congress, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. El-Rufai made the declaration at the Murtala Square in Kaduna, where the national leader of the APC, accompanied by the former governor of Borno State, Kashim Shettima, former EFCC boss Nuhu Ribadu, and other dignitaries canvassed support from delegates. Shettima had earlier assured the delegates that the Kaduna State Governor, Nasir El-Rufai, was solidly by their side. El-Rufai said he would need the support of delegates from Kaduna State to make a decision.
The leadership of the Ohaneze Ndigbo worldwide has threatened that the Southeast will boycott votings in the forthcoming general elections in 2023 if the ruling All Progressive Congress and the leading opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, fail to zone their presidential tickets to the Southeast. The group noted that it will mobilize the zone to use the options of the usual sit-at-home order to boycott the elections. The factional Secretary General of Ohaneze Ndigbo, Mazi Okechukwu Isuguzoro, made this known in a statement made available to Daily Trust on Thursday. Meanwhile, the Pan-Niger Delta Development Forum, PANDEF, has described as unfortunate the decision of the People's Democratic Party to throw open the contest of the party's 2023 presidential ticket. The spokesperson of PANDEF, Kem Robinson, in a statement said that by this decision, the main opposition party has dug its own grave.
In other news, Sokoto State Police Command has commenced investigation into the alleged blasphemous comment by female students of Shehu Shagari College of Education in Sokoto. Deborah Samuel, a level 2 student, was accused of making a social media post that blasphemed the Holy Prophet. According to the statement signed by the Police Public Relations Officer, ASP Sanusi Abubakar, 2 suspects have been arrested in connection with the incident while the school has been closed down. The Commissioner of Police, Sokoto State Command, CP Kamaldin Kola Okunlola, has appealed to members of the public to go about their lawful activities and not panic as the situation is under control.
And that's a wrap on the news headline. And now moving on, after months of speculations, the picking of extraction of interest and nomination funds by the Central Bank Governor, Godwin Emefiele, to join the race to succeed President Muhammadu Buhari has drawn reaction from politicians, financial experts, lawyers over the impropriety or otherwise of the Apex Bank's chiefs joining the fray. The CBN governor has been under intense pressure to resign since then, with many raising concerns about the potential conflicts of interest in his possible involvement in politics. Emefiele's response has raised controversy on the morality and legality of a sitting CBN governor's participation in a partisan process, the extent to which this has breached the CBN Act, and if a case of conflict of interest can be established. On Daybreak this morning, we will now dwell more on this implication on the economy and investors' confidence, and we have in the studio with us a senior economist with SPM Professionals, Mr. Paul Alaje. I hope I got that correctly. Thank you very much and for finding time to be with us in the studio
Thank
to
you
throw
so very much for
light on this issue. We have seen quite a number of drama around the persona of the AFS Bank of Nigeria, with people with varying positions with regards to whether or not it is even appropriate that somebody in that office should be associated with this kind of movement. You are in economics, you are a professional, you are daily in the business of gauging investors' confidence and looking at the numbers. What does his candidature portend for all of these indices?
Okay, so from what we've gathered, Mr. Emefiele has shown interest, even though in the public space, he has not by himself said he's running. So that still gives room for maybe speculation. But from all indication, group have mentioned his name. We have seen vehicles branded, with description of his face on some of those things, which means that there is high level of possibility that Mr. Emefiele may be running for office. Constitutionally, can Mr. Emefiele run? I think from the little thing I know about law, yes. I think he may want to run for office. But combining economy, because when a medical doctor makes a mistake over a patient, you may lose a life, or maybe the family attached to him may suffer. But when a policymaker, especially monetary policymaker, makes mistake, it's going to affect the entire economy. For our economy, we are over 200 million. It's going to have tremendous impact on our exchange rates, on our pricing, inflation, and so on and so forth. So central bank itself, the central bank governor is an office. It's not called central bank chairman, it's central bank governor. That is not just for speaking sake. The job, the requirement to lead the APEX Bank, and it did not stop there, even the head of monetary policy committee, it's a major assignment on its own that will be very difficult to combine with any political activity. Not even the position of a chairman or a councillor of a ward, because it's a sensitive position that a central bank governor is occupying. So from what we've gathered, Mr. Emefiele is saying he's not running. He's not saying he's running or he's not running. But if you go by what has been filed in courts, there are indications that he may run. If he runs while still in office, will it have implication on the economy? Yes. It's going to have a major implication on the economy. We've seen INEC said, we are not sure we can trust electoral materials being warehoused in CBN when the head of CBN is an interested party. Beyond those, what would the investor say? Investor who may be interested in certain regards. Now, before you go to investor outside Nigeria, that's foreign investor, let's look at local investors. Someone who may be a member of APGA or a member of SDP, or the major opposition party at the federal level, the PDP. The person may say that he's not getting access to FX for official demand because he feels that the governor is a member of APC. And these are the reasons why we say that the central bank head must be independent. It must be apolitical. Yes, he can go and vote. He may even be a member of political party without people knowing, just to express his interest. But when we make it public, it's going to cause a lot of insinuation. If someone is having issues with a party member in a state, and such person has something to do with central bank or with the banking system, the person may be afraid that, hey, their own is the central bank governor. It's not going to be free and fair. So while Mr. Emefiele has tried his best, if you ask me, as monetary policy authority, he has tried what he could do. We have seen policy here, policy there. Whether the policy yield result is a different kettle of fish entirely. But we've seen that of three major legs of economy, the fiscal, the monetary, and trade, among the three, he's still the one that have always come out to speak with the media, to give position, to share his opinion, and also to put one or two things together. But will his contest, while still in office, affect foreign investor? The answer again is yes. Okay. Just the way it will affect local investors. It's also going to affect foreign investors because foreign investors will sense bias. And it is not just members of APC, political party, that we convince foreign investors. In fact, opposition can take this outside Nigeria and say, you want to invest in our country? You want access to FX? Come on. The chief of central bank is a member of the other party. And I can tell you, so it gives room for a lot of speculations, which we may not like. So if the governor wants to resign and run for office, why not? If not. But while in office and still wants to be president, I think we need to check it properly before we look at it. So for now, he has not said he's running, and I will take it as that because there is no clip, there is no statement, there is no word that I can say the governor has said he's running or he's not running for office.
Just a quick one before my colleague comes on board. You had made it clear that if he chooses to run while in office, it will have an effect, and that is established. But what about this uncertainty that surrounds whether or not he would run? I know that that's a letter that has given up to Monday, but the fact that there is no clarity coming from him, at first he responded and said he's still consulting and praying about it. And then he shows up at the presidential villa and says there will be news. Whether or not it will be a positive or negative, we're not sure. But the mere fact that he has continued to keep Nigerians in abeyance or people who want to make investment move or decisions, because, I mean, these things are made on a daily basis and on the hour. From the numbers you have seen, from the behavior of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, or from the behavior of the bond market, maybe we may not be able to gauge influx with regards to foreign direct investment right now. Have we seen any kind of reaction by these indices yet because of this uncertainty around his candidature?
Well, the indices are worse off already. If you are looking for something, unemployment rate is 33.1%, you know, of the labor force, not of the entire population. Population is about 206 million. Labor force is barely 70 million. So a bit less than 70 million, to properly speaking. So if you have 33% of less than 70 million, and you have 136 million that are not even qualified to work, what more indices are we looking for? That's on one side. And you may say, oh, that is more fiscal oriented, it's not so much. What happens to inflation? Official figure, 15.9%. Meanwhile, my personal inflation is above 33%. From the basket of goods I consumed last year, when I compare to the basket of goods I consumed this year, and I run year on year of my consumer price index, it's over 33%. So what more do we need? Exchange rate, what was it, 4 years ago? What is exchange rate today? So if we are now still running office with all of the indicators that are horrible, that are not good enough, central bank expectation is that the inflation rate will be within single digits, not more than 9%. But what we have is 15%. We have had 18% twice, So I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think that running while in office will even be a good precedent for other central bank governors. Mr. Emefiele may have good intent, intention may be clear, but if he set this precedent, it may affect all other persons coming in future. That said, again, the fact that there are no clarity, we are not sure whether he's running, the way he engages the media, and so on and so forth. Something seems to be certain. The governor seems to be interested. But whether the principal will allow the governor to run is another thing entirely. So I think the investors should also wait. APC primary is good enough. It's coming up very soon.
In a fortnight.
So we'll now see whether Mr. Emefiele will be one of the candidates to run. And when he runs and he steps down, well, he's been able to push through to the primaries and see. But I know that President Buhari will not want someone to be in office while he's still a candidate of his party. Because it can't even work together. You can't be a candidate and be running office. Definitely such person is not even serious about his program. So we have just a few days to the primaries, then we can see how to cross the bridge when we get there.
Well, for me, it's more personal than technical. When you first, saw that speculation or heard the news of his pronouncement and all of that, what came through your mind?
Well, I think as a state, there are people who might not put the state first. you know. I feel that if we put this country first and we want people to behave the way we would have behaved, there are some things that are not just necessary. If you look at previous elections, we have seen people who are interested in office and they're occupying office. I'm not talking of this year or last year or 4 years ago. Several elections, date back, you know, early 2000s, people willingly would resign and discuss with their principal, either at the state or federal level. They have political interest. But in recent time, we have started seeing people, while in office, going to run for primaries. And if they win primary election, then they will resign. Some even forget to resign, and they still run. At the end of the day, when they become elected, before they are sworn in, then they go resign. I don't think it's good enough. I think we should be, I think also the Constitution or the Act should be very clear. It should be clearly stated. So you know that if you eat your cake, you cannot have it. You know, so but people want to eat here and also gain on the other side. I think the president is in the right position. We have read what the SGF mentioned, but whether that is going to be enforced is another thing entirely. But we will just wait and see how the whole thing play out in the coming days.
Staying with Emefiele, whether or not he chooses to resign now, as it were, or not, the fact that he has indicated interest, the fact that he has showed up in court, you know, with those big lawyers trying to argue out technicalities that would enable him run. Should he decide to stay in it, don't you think that has already impacted the way he will be perceived going forward? The idea that whilst in office he was a member of a political party or showed interest in activity, is this not enough whether or not he's moving forward to vacate that office?
Okay, before I answer that, the time given to those that are holding office to resign
is Monday.
It's Monday. APC convention, APC primaries will come
in a fortnight.
So, will that really hold? I'm just checking it. Are we really telling them to step down, or you could withdraw after losing or winning? So I'm even looking at the politics of the statements. It seems very political. Because it's very easy for us to put it on social media, to put it on the headlines of newspapers. But when you critique the statement, the publication coming from presidency, you know, and you compare it, you compare that with the reality, then you know that I think there is a game going on. But I'm not a politician. You know, as a professional, we're just looking at it. The perception, yes, a lot of people will want to perceive central bank government, even say he's not running for office again. People may say, oh, it's a politician. But what I would say is I've never heard him said he wants to run for office. It could be that he wants to fight interest. You know, our law is very technical in a way. He has never said he's running. He has never said he's not running. But what we know is that he felt that he should be able to contest. Whether he wins that or he does not is a different ballgame entirely. So I would not want to say that, of course, everybody will perceive him because of what has happened. I've always seen Mr. Emefiele as a very professional person who, from time to time, especially when he makes presentation after Monetary Policy Committee, what he always says, the policy he wants, how he wants Nigeria to improve, and all of those. I was one of the persons that was shocked when the news around his interest in politics came up. I feel that, yes, even if he wants to run for policy, maybe after his tenure, we have seen Governor Sholudo in Anambra State, and I think he's on the right track because he has gathered experience, you know, at the federal level. He was a monetary authority himself, so he knew what the people want, so he could deploy that, you know, to his state. I think Mr. Emefiele could have done the same, but this is a different ball game entirely. But when people perceive him as somebody of interest, I think he has interest because of that particular court matter, and going to the president yesterday and telling the media there will be a news. Whether it's yes or no, it's also an indication of interest. Is it wrong for him to have interest as a person? No. But as the office holder, so the challenge is not Mr. Emefiele. No, He's a Nigerian, and I think he has constitutional right. He has no criminal record, you know, at least to public knowledge, you know, that we have. I don't think so. But because he's also occupying a position that is very sensitive, that is very strategic, you know, and that is very important, I think that is where a number of persons will have issue with his intention.
Okay, now you spoke about primaries. We're also seeing that Naira is expected to crash further, you know, as aspirants mop up dollars. And then experts are also predicting dark days, you know, for the Nigerian economy. Could you just comment around that?
Well, I don't see anything we are doing differently as an economy. And I don't think that even from those that are running for office, what I've told my friends in the media to ask, they've said they are going to make Nigeria better, Nigeria as a nation better. They're going to improve the economy. They will improve security. I've always asked my friends that are in the media, have you asked how? Do not just tell us this will improve. You want to employ 3 million people within first 2 years. The question is how? What would you do? Let us know how. Enough of, oh, this man is a man of integrity, just vote for him. You could vote for a man of integrity. He has personal integrity, but he has to work with hundreds or thousands of people without integrity. And the money we miss in the votes. More than ever before, 100 million naira in Nigeria seem as urgent 2K.
Truly.
Everybody seems to have the 100 million. And groups who have left people, you know, poor from Sokoto to Calabar, from Lagos to Borno, people are poor, hungry, and deprived. IMF figures say about 42% of our population. UNDP says in 2018 that more than 90 million of our population are living under multidimensional poverty. We are the groups raising 100 million with the top of their fingers and buying for people who have not even discussed with them. Why can't they put the monies together? And I think if a group could give 100 million, such group we have more than 1 billion
absolutely
to give. So, but we have poverty, we have hunger. 100 million could start businesses. And more people, part of the 33.1% unemployment figures that we have, could reduce significantly. So I think the biggest business in this economy today is politics. And unfortunately, the reward from politics is very small when you look at it officially, but unofficially, it's evident in corruption. High level of corruption. That is what is evident. And that's what I think a lot of people are interested. Why would you just raise 100 million? You know, when I saw 100 million, that's what APC has raised, I felt, I don't think more than 2 or 3 people will buy the form. When it got to 10, when it got to 15, I was pleasantly shocked that more people are interested. You know, and if you saw party executive, they said, we raise it to 100 million so that only serious-minded people. And politicians themselves are saying, we are not the one buying it. People are buying for us, and we're expressing shock, though some accepted. And I think one or so have said he didn't ask them to buy. Out of nearly 20 or more, you know, there's a lot for us to worry about as a people, honestly.
Lots to worry about. Just a slight digression. And you have mentioned that in passing when you were talking to us, the issue of the right questions to ask. Given where we are today as a country, I mean, you have followed stories around how 70% of our crude is stolen internally, how even though it's a windfall globally, we are making next to zero excess accretion to reserves. We have the NNPC that had not contributed a farthing to the Federal Account Allocation Committee in nearly 4 or 5 months, owing to excuses around the subsidy payment or what they choose to call on the recovery. Looking at where we are headed as a country economically and all of these myriad of challenges that befall us, what should be the kind of credentials we should be looking for in who takes the reins of this country come 2023? Because a popular cleric once said, Bishop Kuka if you like, that we are clearly in the emergency ward of a hospital, and the candidate we need is one who will show us how we can come out of admission immediately. As an economist, what kind of credentials should we be looking for, track records, in these persons that will be so saddled with responsibility come 2023?
We need a man that can combine two factors. Each of these factors could be later grouped into a 5 different characteristics. The first and the second. We need a man with high level of governance, which is rule of law. If somebody steals, the person should be jailed. There will be nothing like it's from my tribe, it's from my region, or he speaks my language. There are no examples of people that have done wrong. There are no sufficient examples. Number 2, we need a person that is driven, that is drunk with infrastructure. It is the leader that can combine these two. When President Buhari came on board, we all knew that this was going to fight corruption, but we're not sure it was going to build infrastructure. So let us look at it. Are we better off in 2015 than we are today? When President Jonathan came on board, we were not sure he was going to punish corrupt individuals, but we thought it was going to build infrastructure. Check 2010 till when President Jonathan left. Are we better off than worse off? And you can say the same for other previous presidents. If we are better off, so we need that person whose policy, and some of these politicians, we've known some of the antecedents. So we need to ask, what is your position on rule of law? Not what they will say. We need to go and look at their profile. The insecurity we have today, it is because of poor governance. Again, also because of poor economy. The children we left, you see, when we say we have over 10 million out of school children, what do you expect? In 10 years' time, out of school children will become what?
Out of school adults.
They will become bandits. They will become criminals. They will become quote and unquote agbero. That's what they will become. And they live in the same community called Nigeria. You cannot export them out of your nation because by birth they become citizens of such country. So we are all victims of their attacks because we have refused to educate them. We have refused to program their brain in the right direction. So the elites that feels we can gather small money and house these people to wash their car, to say Rankadede, to say Babake to horse, eventually we will pay. If they don't pay, then children of the elite will pay. And this is exactly what we are seeing. Hundreds of people on Abuja, from Abuja to Kaduna adopted. They are still in the hands of kidnappers as we speak. Even though we want to build infrastructure, but there is no governance. There is no rule of law. For those that were caught before, what example were we able to make? So if you must be a leader of Nigeria of today, it will be worse off if we don't have a leader that can combine the two. Governance, which is evident in ability to fight insecurity, and by showing example. When people see that politicians have started coming even from the political corridor, those that are doing wrong, those that are stealing, and we have laws. And this reform will start from the judiciary. By the way, after the judiciary, it goes to the police. After the police, it goes to customs. It goes to immigration. These are key, very key agencies of government. So when we are able to do that, what we not make people to continue to do wrong is when the economy becomes viable. And it's not with this our 70-30 or 20-80 budgetary allocation. It should reverse. 80% of our budgetary allocation should go to capital expenditure. I'll give you an example. Even though people say, oh, it's not an ideal society, UAE, the GDP of UAE is over 400 million. The GDP of Nigeria is over 400 million. You wonder why average person in Dubai has high quality of life? You'll be begging people to earn $1,000 salary. Check that here. $1,000 times whatever exchange rate is.
Or 580.
How much is that? A lot of money. You would have to appeal to someone. Drivers earn as much as that. And we are wondering why our medical doctors are running out of Nigeria to go and work there. I don't know if you are with me. So if you don't build the economy, and look at that economy, it has attracted so much infrastructure. What did they do differently? We have seen some African countries also doing that part. wanting to build infrastructure. But we must remember that rule of law is important, because if you build, bandits will come and blow it off. So you is not going to excuse one for the other. And it's not, you see, the election ahead of us should not be who comes from where. It should not be who is favored by the elites. It should be who is competent, who can give us governance. When I say governance, good governance, which is evidence in rule of law, which is evidence in protection of life and property, and who can build our economy. Most importantly, our infrastructure. Again, population growth. Nigeria is among 2 countries today with highest population growth.
Well, if you don't have anything for the youth to do, what more than to keep reproducing?
Of course. And look at UAE again. The population of indigene is about 1 million. Foreigners about 9 million. Everything about 10 million. To share GDP of over 420. Nigeria, 206 million people. 206 million to share about 430 or 450. And you wonder why we are poor. And guess what? Fertility rate of our women still very high. And I've been to another country you may want to call extremely religious country of Israel. Population growth rate very low. So are we not hypocrites? Are we not hypocrites? Because even Saudi Arabia, with so much population growth rate, they have not started creating consciousness among their people. Before, a woman could not drive in Saudi Arabia. It has been changed. Women can now drive. Because as the world becomes more enlightened, we don't throw away our religion, no. But we are saying that within the reality of the world today, how do we live? Because resources seems to be limited in supply. Right. If population outweighs the resources, then we will suffer.
True.
And this is what many people are not confident of speaking about in Nigeria. We need to control our population. It is just what it is. People say, oh, big population is for defense. Look at our military. They've been fighting. And they've been able to win. So, and we should not demoralize the military, by the way. They are giving their best. But we will not give excuse of military. We want to build military. Our military staff, how many do we have, for instance, in Marine? How many staff? Do we have up to 1 million? The answer is no. Do we have up to 500,000? The answer is no. Do we have up to 50,000? The answer is no. So is it because of our population? And you're wondering why we don't have sufficient men? You know, so for me, I strongly believe government must come up. And the next, because I'm not sure if the incumbent will want to talk about that, but the next government must tell us, how do we control population growth? For economy to grow, if the economy is growing at 2%, population is growing at 3%, no impact. That's what you get.
That's quite a challenge, I must say, for us.
What a fitting way to draw this conversation to a close with us is an economics and senior officer of XPV. I'm talking about Paul Oleje, who has spoken to a myriad of issues and climaxing with the issue of population control, which somehow is beginning to gain some level of attention in public discourse across everywhere. Basically, population control may not necessarily mean birth control, but finding way to give birth to the number of children within your own economic capabilities, to give them good education, good welfare, and to guarantee, quality meal and avoid stunted growth. And that way you may have been contributing your own quota to the quality of individuals that would be able to do the kind of quality recruitments of leadership that would in turn give back to society
with 30,000 minimum wage. How many should you give birth to? With 42% people by IMF, World Bank projecting the same for us. 42%. How many should we give birth to? With over 80 or 90 million living in multidimensional poverty. For God's sake, our elite leave this country too. And they see for themselves. We cannot manage. Already we have bastardized and abused many Nigerians. And we have left them to get solace by meeting their spouses. How many can we manage?
Interesting. Very big question there, and I'm sure we would have the opportunity in the future to bring back Mr. Paul in the studio and continue to explore this conversation for the sake of our national growth. It's a pleasure to have you spend some time with us this morning and taking you away from your very valuable clients where you offer this very valuable insight and economic advice. Thank you very much for spending time with us.
Thank you so very much for having me.
Yes, we will take a breather at this point. When we return, the program continue. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned to Daybreak on Trust Television. We will move on quickly to our next discussion. After so much tension and horse trading, the main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, has thrown open its ticket for the 2023 presidential election. Rising from its 96th National Executive Committee meeting in Abuja on Wednesday, the party said after a very extensive deliberation, the committee aligned with the recommendations of the National Zoning Committee that the presidential election should now be left open. We are now being joined via the phone from Port Harcourt by the spokesman of the Pan-Niger Delta Development Forum, PANDEF, Mr. Ken Robinson, to share his thought with us this morning. Mr. Robinson, a very good morning to you from Abuja.
Good morning, my brother, and thanks for this opportunity. Good morning to viewers in Nigeria across the world.
We hope you have a very bright and clear morning today in Port Harcourt.
Fantastic morning.
Thank you for joining us. We saw that release from your office, reacting to the position of the PDP after its last executive committee meeting, which from where it threw open the presidential aspiration. And you said they have dug a pit for themselves. Can you kindly give us an insight into why that statement was made?
It is unfortunate that the People's Democratic Party decided to uphold the recommendations of the governor, autumn recommendations of his zoning committee, throwing open the presidential contest for the party's ticket. And it's sad that this is a party that its constitution clearly commits it to the policy of zoning and rotation of party offices and, of course, public elective offices in pursuance of maintaining and respecting the fundamental principles of equity, fairness, and justice. And the current chairman of the party, Senator Ayu, emerged on the basis of zoning. And that is why we had only not just northern candidates, but it was microzone to North Central, and he was imposed on the party, as it were, to serve, now we believe, to serve specific interests. And from the Utom Emmanuel's committee to date, it seems clearly that a written script was handed over to them, and it has ended in what they have done. It is unfair, it's unacceptable. The PDP had respected zoning from its foundation, since its foundation in 1999. And most recently in 2018, we had a situation where only Northern aspirants contested for the party's primary because it was zoned to the north in 2018. And for them to turn around and somersault and jettison that policy now is clear indication that they don't believe in the peace, unity, and progress of Nigeria.
Okay. Now we're also seeing that the Southeast is going to boycott, polls. Does this mean they're not going to vote in the coming elections?
We will not. Pandef does not agree to any boycotts. This is our country. Rather, Pandef will mobilize our people to ensure that we punish the PDP. What the PDP is doing is clear. We know that there is a hand behind directing the party, and the destination is known. As far back as December 2021, we had known that this is what they will do, and this is the direction that they are going, and the final destination is known. We cannot continue like this in Nigeria. The presidency of Nigeria is nobody's birthright. No single individual is destined to be the only person that can be president of Nigeria. We have over 70 million employable adults, 70 million people, of which any one of us can become the president of Nigeria and direct and coordinate the affairs of Nigeria properly. And so it is wrong for any single individual or a few group of persons to think that they are the only people that can become president of Nigeria.
Mr. Robinson, just to provide
consideration that only a Northerner can secure victory for the PDP the 2023 election is also very, very, very preposterous.
Okay, Mr. Robinson, just to put the conversation in proper context, throwing the process open, does that in a way suggest that this is tilting towards a northern candidate, given that there are a myriad of candidates in the running for the PDP ticket?
My brother, we are in the Nigerian society, the Nigerian structure is divided. And the playing field is imbalanced. The system is skewed already against the southern Nigeria. We have 36 states in Nigeria, and 19 states are in the north. We have 17 states in southern Nigeria. So if we say the field is open, it's already imbalanced. And that is why at any time, these issues of zoning and rotation are arrangements put in place for the peace and stability of this country. I was going to say that there have been insinuations, opinions, or arguments that zoning, PDP should consider winning an election or zoning. Choose between winning an election and zoning. The implication there, the implied consideration is that it's only Northern that can give PDP victory in 2023 election. Do we need to remind the PDP that Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, who won election for PDP in 1999 and 2003, is not a Northerner. Goodluck Jonathan won election for the PDP in 2011. He's not a Northerner. We are a country. We have existed because we are one people, because we at some point will say, okay, this is the way we should do things. And people reach understanding, And so for anybody to become president of Nigeria, as the Constitution clearly says, you need to secure 1/3 of votes in 2/3 of the states of a country. And that clearly is to bring about inclusiveness and collectiveness so that a president represents every part of the country. Okay. The PDP should know that it cannot become the next president of Nigeria, jettisoning the issues of inclusion, the issues of fairness, equity, and justice. And we hope that the APC will take advantage of this indiscretion of the PDP and demonstrate to Nigerians that it is nationalistic party committed to the unity, the progress and peace of this country by ensuring that the Southern emerges as its presidential candidate.
In saying these things, Mr. Robinson, do we completely jettison the place of population? Some have argued that the political calculations as it is today, it's of a different dimension. If you must wrestle power from the ruling party, then you must be looking at something that would be able to give you the numbers to do so, rather than just pander to the arguments of zoning. That is on the one hand. On the other hand, you have threatened to punish. Neither the APC have been able to conclude on what its party candidate will be. If these two major parties decide to field candidates other than those from the South, what becomes of your options?
Now, I will look at the issue of population first and clearly say that it is not necessarily a candidate from one particular section that will give victory to a party. It is the Nigerian people that will give victory to a party. Do not forget that in 1999, we had two persons from the Southwest who were presidential candidates of the two main parties at the time. Now, in 2003, the present president, that is Muhammadu Buhari, contested against Olusegun Obasanjo. Buhari scored 12 million votes, about 12 million votes approximately. He didn't win the election, and he contested against the Southerner. In 2007, President Muhammadu Buhari contested against Yar'Adua of the PDP, and he scored about 6 million votes. He didn't win the election. The next year, in 2011, he contested against Goodluck Jonathan, a Southerner. He secured about 12 million votes. He didn't win the election. He took by a kind of a collaboration, a partnership with the rest of the country for him to win the election in 2015. And so there is no section, nobody, there is no mega star in any part of the country that can single-handedly make a party win an election. It is the people of Nigeria working together that gives victory to a party. And so it is rather ridiculous for the PDP to consider or even think that because they want to win an election, after 8 years of a northern president, they will attempt to present another northern candidate, because that's what they want to do. I'm on national television, so I'm not going to say something, but there are things we are aware of. As far back as 4 or 5 months ago. And we are saying that Nigerians should prize the unity of this country above the selfish political interests of a few persons. We cannot afford to fritter the labors of our heroes, past and present, by allowing politicians to carelessly and callously, jettison arrangements and understandings that have sustained the unity and oneness of this country over the years now.
I would have loved you to also address the second question. Should the APC, as you have rightly mentioned, decide to also go the way of a candidate other than one from the South, what then becomes the option of Pandef?
If the APC also decides to do what we think the PDP is attempting to do, and the two major parties in the country present persons from the northern part of the country, no matter who they are, the message to us, the Niger Delta people, the message to southern Nigeria as a whole, the message to all minorities in Nigeria, including minorities of the north, is that what you think and how you feel do not matter. And the clear statement implies meaning of that is that to hell with what you feel, and then for us we'll begin to think clearly that then we don't belong in the Nigerian state.
When you talk about thinking clearly, Mr. Robinson, one would say that why is it that it is only at the eve of elections that we get these conversations around zoning? What happens after a candidate emerges where consensus building, it should have happened? We don't see that kind of effort, these agitations, long before we come to this period where it suddenly comes up, it becomes a very hot issue, and once the elections are done, we seem to return to our cocoons. That's one. The other set of observers would say that where was this argument when Goodluck Jonathan was the president of Nigeria? Why was this kind of argument not canvassed? At that time, when he succeeded a president who seemed to have passed on, why it was supposed to be the turn of the power returning to the South. How do you respond to this argument?
Well, it's very clear, and there are records to show that for us in PANDEF and the Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum, that's Afenifere or Anes Indigo, and of course the Middle Belt Forum, we started talking about these issues of zoning perhaps in other times as far back as 2017, where we started talking about restructuring. Restructuring is about fairness. Restructuring is about balancing, correcting the imbalances in the structure of Nigeria, correcting the lopsidedness, and correcting our biases and attitudes in the conduct of affairs of the Nigerian state. That's restructuring. And it was all about ensuring that things are done more fairly and that people consider others' interests. And let me say that for every crisis in families, in extreme cases, wars between countries and between groups, it's about poor interest management. And what is playing out now, particularly in the PDP and perhaps even in the APC, is the poor management of interest. And anytime this poor management escalates to some point, you have a full-blown out crisis, and the next thing is war. And we hope that Nigerians will understand that we cannot afford to throw this country beyond the present challenges we have. And so we need to manage interests, the various interests, properly. Now, having said that, when Goodluck Jonathan, unfortunately, when Umaru Yar'Adua passed, there were consultations across Nigeria. I am aware that at that time, various interest groups, even strong interest groups in northern Nigeria, thought that there was need for continuity and that Jonathan should continue. I'm aware of visits that were made to leaders at various points in this country, and there was a consensus that he should continue. And the outcome of the 2011 elections clearly speaks to that fact. And so there was no imposition, there was no display of arrogance of any kind. It was a clear understanding that was achieved through responsible dialogue and discussions that were held with leaders of our country at all the levels that were necessary. We're not seeing that now. And we've been talking about this issue of zoning, particularly since from May last year. That's about a year now. And people are determined to in a particular direction with a fixed mindset that becoming the president of Nigeria is a lifelong ambition. It's a birthright, and it must be. And so they are ready to jettison whatever arrangement that has kept Nigeria together in pursuit of their personal ambitions.
Thank you very much.
It cannot be.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Robinson. This is how much time will permit us to take. We have been talking via the phone from Port Harcourt with the spokesperson of the Pan-Niger Delta Development Forum, PANDEF, Mr. Ken Robinson, who has shared his thought with us on issues that borders on zoning and the recent decision by the People's Democratic Party to throw open its presidential ticket. This is the much that we can take at this time. We hope that when next we call on you to shed more light on this issue and other issues as it borders on national development, that you will afford us the opportunity. Pan-Niger Delta Forum. Thank you very much for that correction, and do have a great day ahead. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. This is the much that we can take today. The flight, the Daybreak flight has finally touched down. Destination, the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. We hope you have had a delectable Friday morning with us and all that we have served you this morning. We hope that you have a great day ahead. I am Sunday Michael Ogo.
And I'm Zainab Bala. Have a lovely weekend.